People of this hour, hear this word. There are moments in history when heaven grows silent, and then suddenly it speaks. We are living in such a moment. From the ancient days, signs were given, not to entertain, but to awaken, not to frighten, but to call back the hearts of those who have wandered. For when a nation forgets its ways, when a people walk in their own strength and not in the ways of the Most High, the warning comes before the shaking. And now the warning stands before us, a blackout, not just of lights, but of hearts, not only of cities, but of souls. For light was given so that darkness would not reign. Yet when light is rejected, darkness is permitted to remind the world what life is without it. This is not chance. This is not coincidence. This is a call. Chosen one. This word is for those who were set apart not by power, not by title, not by fame, but by purpose. Chosen not to blend in, but to stand. Not to be silent, but to speak. Not to fear, but to shine. Because when the lights go out, the true light must rise. In ancient times, plagues came before deliverance. In the days of Egypt, darkness covered the land, thick, heavy, unmovable. Yet where the people of God dwelled, there was light. So it shall be again, not because of who they are, but because of who He is. The blackout is not the end. It is the alarm. It says, wake up, return, remember, return to truth, return to humility, return to the ways that brought blessing before pride took the throne. For the shaking comes not to destroy, but to separate, to reveal what is built on sand and what is built on the rock. And in the darkness, every false light will fade, but the true light cannot be extinguished. This is the hour, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Do not harden the heart. Do not say, peace, peace, when the warning has already been given. For mercy always speaks before judgment, and grace always reaches before the fall. Chosen one, rise, stand in the gap. Be the light when others stumble in the dark, for it is happening, and yet even now the door of return stands open. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The message of a divine warning is not meant to terrify the heart, but to awaken it. Throughout history, when God has spoken through signs, through shaking, through moments that disrupt the normal flow of life, it has never been without purpose. It is not the voice of destruction, but the voice of mercy calling out before the storm. The idea of a coming blackout in this sense is not simply about power grids failing or cities going dark. It is about a wake-up call from heaven. A moment designed to interrupt complacency and force people to look up from the noise of daily life and remember who holds the light itself. Human nature often waits until everything is comfortable before asking questions of meaning, but warnings rarely come in comfort. They come in forms that unsettle, because only what unsettles can break through hardened hearts. A divine warning says, pay attention, do not drift, do not assume that tomorrow will be the same as today. It confronts the illusion that life is fully under human control. In a world that trusts technology, systems, and human wisdom, a blackout becomes a powerful symbol. When the lights go out, all that seems strong is suddenly fragile. And in that fragility, the soul is reminded that there is a higher power above every switch, every wire, and every human plan. Yet the heart of a warning from God is not judgment but grace. Judgment may come, but warning comes first. It is the space God gives for turning back, for rethinking paths taken, for softening hearts that have grown proud or distant. It is as if heaven is saying, before you reach the edge, I am calling your name. The warning is proof that God still cares, still speaks, still reaches out rather than remaining silent. Silence would mean abandonment, but a warning means relationship. This kind of message challenges the idea that disasters or crises are random or meaningless. Instead, it invites reflection. What if moments of shaking are allowed so that what truly matters can be seen? When everything runs smoothly, it is easy to forget dependence on God. But when the lights go out, when normal patterns stop, suddenly people pray who never prayed before, think about eternity who never thought about it, and search for hope beyond what the world can offer. The warning becomes a doorway to rediscover faith. A divine warning also exposes the condition of the heart. Some hear it and mock, some ignore it, some grow angry, but others listen, others pause. Others feel a stirring that says, something is not right and I need to change. The same warning that hardens one heart can soften another. In that way, it separates not by force, but by response. It reveals who is willing to hear and who chooses to remain asleep. There is also urgency within a warning. It carries the message that time matters, not in a way that leads to panic, but in a way that leads to action. It tells people that waiting is dangerous, that delaying change can cost what might never be recovered. A warning means there is still time, but not unlimited time. It is an invitation to return now, not later, to realign life with truth before circumstances force the issue. Most of all, a divine warning points back to the light. If there is talk of darkness, it is only because light exists. If there is fear of a blackout, it is because light is precious. God does not warn to leave people in darkness, but to lead them back into light. The warning says that even if darkness comes, it does not have to rule the heart. Those who turn back can carry a light that no blackout can extinguish, because it does not come from the world, but from God Himself. In this way, the message of warning becomes a message of hope. It declares that God has not given up, that He still calls, that He still offers a way back before the shaking completes its work. And for those who listen, the warning is not a sentence of fear, but a gift of mercy. A final knock on the door of the heart saying, return while the door is still open. When we speak of darkness beyond the physical, we are talking about a condition that cannot be measured by instruments or fixed by restoring electricity. It is a darkness that settles quietly into hearts and minds, often unnoticed, because life still looks busy and full on the outside. Streets may glow, screens may shine, and cities may never sleep, yet inside something deeper grows dim. Truth becomes blurred, right and wrong lose their sharp edges, and what once felt sacred slowly becomes ordinary or forgotten. This is the kind of darkness that does not arrive with thunder, but with distraction. Spiritual darkness does not announce itself. It comes when people stop asking eternal questions and become satisfied with temporary answers. It grows when comfort replaces conviction, when success becomes more important than integrity, and when noise fills every moment so that silence, where reflection lives, is avoided. Over time, the heart can forget what it was created for. The soul, meant to be alive with purpose, begins to drift, not because of one great fall, but because of many small compromises that seem harmless at first. In such a state, light is not rejected outright, it is simply neglected. People do not always say no to truth, but they stop listening for it. They replace it with opinions, trends, and whatever feels easiest. What once guided decisions becomes inconvenient, and what once demanded humility becomes optional. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the inner light fades. Not all at once, but step by step, until a person may not even realize how far the heart has moved from its source. This kind of darkness affects more than individuals. It shapes whole communities and nations. When enough hearts grow dim, the culture reflects it. Words lose meaning. Promises lose weight, compassion becomes selective, the idea of accountability fades, and everyone becomes their own measure of truth. In such a world, confusion grows, because when there is no shared light, every path seems right to the one walking on it. Yet many paths lead not to freedom, but to deeper shadows. That is why the image of a blackout carries such power. It mirrors what has already happened inside. The outer darkness simply reveals the inner one. When the lights go out, fear rises, not just because people cannot see, but because they realize how dependent they are on light. In the same way, when life shakes the soul, people suddenly realize how empty it is to live without spiritual light. What once felt strong no longer holds. What once distracted no longer satisfies. And the heart, exposed, begins to search for something real. Darkness beyond the physical also brings a test. It reveals what truly lives inside. When everything external is stripped away, what remains? Hope or despair, faith or bitterness, trust or panic. In times of inner darkness, masks fall. The soul can no longer hide behind routines and appearances. It must face its condition. And in that confrontation lies both danger and opportunity. Danger if the heart closes, opportunity if it opens. Yet even in spiritual darkness, the story is not one of hopelessness. Darkness exists only because light is present somewhere to be missed. The very awareness of darkness is proof that the soul remembers what light feels like. That memory becomes the invitation to return. For light is not something the heart creates on its own, it is something it receives. And no matter how dim it has grown, light can be restored the moment the heart turns back to its source. This deeper darkness also teaches that external solutions alone are not enough. No law, no technology, no system can heal what is broken within. They may manage behavior, but they cannot transform the heart. Only a return to truth, to humility, to the one who gives light can do that. And that return begins with recognition, admitting that the darkness is real, that it has touched the soul, and that it cannot be defeated without help. In the end, darkness beyond the physical is a call to awareness. It says that life is more than what can be seen, owned, or achieved. It reminds the heart that without spiritual light, even the brightest world can feel empty, and it invites every soul, no matter how far it has drifted, to turn back while the light still shines, because once it is embraced again, no darkness can overcome it. To be called chosen is not to be lifted above others, but to be set apart for a purpose greater than oneself. It does not speak of privilege, but of responsibility. The call of the chosen is not about comfort or applause. It is about standing when standing is costly, about remaining faithful when compromise seems easier, and about carrying light when the world grows dark. Those who are chosen are not selected because they are strong, but because they are willing to listen, willing to obey, willing to walk a path that may be lonely but leads toward truth. This calling begins quietly, often deep within the heart. It is a stirring that says, you were made for more than this. Not more in the sense of status or success, but more in meaning. It is the realization that life is not meant to be lived only for self, but as a vessel for something higher. The chosen feel a pull toward purpose even when they cannot fully explain it. They sense that their lives are meant to point beyond themselves, to reflect a light that is not their own. Yet with this call comes tension. To be chosen is to stand out, and to stand out is to be misunderstood. When many follow the crowd, the chosen are asked to walk a different way. When voices around grow loud with fear, anger, or pride, they are called to speak with truth, humility, and courage. This does not make them popular. Often it makes them targets. But the call remains, do not blend in when you were made to shine. The chosen are not perfect. They struggle, doubt, and stumble like anyone else. What sets them apart is not flawlessness, but direction. When they fall, they rise again. When they wander, they return. Their hearts remain sensitive to correction, open to grow, and hungry for what is right. They understand that the call is not a badge to wear, but a path to walk day after day, choice by choice. In times of darkness, the role of the chosen becomes even clearer. They are not meant to curse the darkness, but to bring light into it, not with loud words alone, but with lives that reflect hope, integrity, and compassion. They become living signs that darkness does not have the final word. Even a small light, when held steadily, can guide others who are lost. And often, it is in the darkest moments that the smallest lights shine the brightest. The call of the chosen is also a call to stand in the gap, to care when others turn away, to pray when others mock, to build when others tear down. It is a call to carry burdens not their own, to intercede for families, communities, and even nations that may not realize how much they need it. This kind of standing is unseen by many, but not unnoticed by God. For what is done in faith, even in secret, carries eternal weight. There is also a refining in this calling. The chosen are shaped through trials, not spared from them. Pressure reveals what lies within, and hardship strengthens what might otherwise remain weak. Through challenges, pride is broken, dependence grows, and the heart learns to trust not in its own strength, but in God's. The fire is not meant to destroy, but to purify, so that what remains can carry the light more clearly. Importantly, being chosen is never meant to lead to isolation or superiority. The chosen are called to serve, not to rule, to love, not to judge. Their lives are meant to invite others toward the same light, not to push them away. The call is inclusive in its purpose, even if exclusive in its demand for commitment. It says, come and see, not stay away. In the end, the call of the chosen is a call to faithfulness, to remain true when it is he is, or to drift, to hold fast when the ground seems to shake, to believe that even when the world grows darker, the light entrusted to them still matters, and as long as they carry it, no darkness can fully overcome what God has set apart for his purpose. Light in the midst of judgment speaks of hope standing unshaken while everything else trembles. It tells a story that runs through history. When darkness rises, it is not because light has failed, but because light is about to be revealed more clearly. Judgment is often seen only as punishment, but in its deeper sense, it is a moment of exposure when what is hidden comes into view and what is false can no longer pretend to be true. In that revealing, light becomes not just a comfort, but a guide. When times are calm, light can be taken for granted. People assume it will always be there, always easy to reach, always dependable. But when judgment or shaking comes, when the structures people trusted begin to crack, suddenly light becomes precious. In uncertainty, even a small glow becomes a treasure. It shows the next step. It gives courage to move forward. It reminds the heart that it is not alone in the darkness. Light in such moments is not merely external, it is carried within. It is seen in those who refuse to surrender to fear, who choose faith over panic, who speak words of hope when despair seems more reasonable. Their presence becomes a testimony that judgment is not the end of the story. It may be a turning point, but it is not the final word. For as long as light remains, the possibility of return, healing, and restoration still stands. Judgment also brings clarity. In the bright light of exposure, illusions fade. What once seemed strong is revealed as fragile. What once appeared harmless is seen for what it truly is. This can be painful because truth often is, but it is also freeing, for only when what is broken is revealed can it be healed. Light does not come to shame, but to show the way back to what is right. In the midst of such moments, those who carry light become signs of mercy. Their lives say that even when consequences come, grace has not left. They show that God's desire is not destruction, but redemption. That even when paths have led far away, there is still a way home. Light shining during judgment becomes a bridge between justice and mercy, reminding the world that both flow from the same heart. There is also a refining power in this light. It burns away what cannot last and strengthens what is true. Fear, pride, and false security are exposed, while humility, faith, and love grow brighter. The light tests every foundation, revealing whether it is built on sand or on something that can endure the storm. And though this process can feel severe, its purpose is not to leave ruins, but to prepare something stronger to rise. For many, judgment feels like the end of hope, but light declares that endings can become beginnings. That what seems like loss can open the door to renewal. In the ashes of what has fallen, light plants the seeds of what can be restored. It whispers that nothing is beyond redemption, that no darkness is too deep for light to reach. Light in the midst of judgment also calls for response. It is not meant to be admired from a distance, but followed. It asks people to step out of hiding, to leave behind what cannot survive the light, and to walk toward what gives life. This requires courage, because moving toward light means letting go of shadows that once felt safe. Yet only in the light can true freedom be found. Ultimately, this light points beyond itself. It is not self-made, not generated by human strength or wisdom. It comes from a source higher than any storm, brighter than any darkness. And because of that, it cannot be extinguished by judgment, by shaking, or by the weight of human failure. It remains steady and sure, inviting all who see it to trust that even in the hardest hour, hope still stands, shining in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. The call to repentance and return is a call to come home. It is not the voice of condemnation shouting from a distance, but the voice of mercy inviting the heart back to where it belongs. Repentance is often misunderstood as mere sorrow or fear of consequences, but at its core, it is a change of direction. It is the moment when a person realizes that the path being walked is leading away from life and chooses to turn around before it is too late. This call begins with awareness, a quiet or sometimes piercing realization that something is not right within. That even if life looks successful on the outside, there is a restlessness inside that cannot be silenced. Repentance starts when the heart stops defending itself and starts telling the truth. It admits pride, selfishness, bitterness, and neglect, not to be crushed by them, but to be freed from their hold. For what is confessed can be healed, but what is hidden continues to bind. Returning is just as important as repenting. It is not enough to turn away from what is wrong. One must also turn toward what is right. The call is not simply to leave darkness, but to step into light. It is an invitation to restore a broken relationship, to rebuild what has been neglected, to seek again the presence that once gave peace and direction. Return speaks of closeness, of belonging, of a heart finding its true home after wandering. There is urgency in this call because delay hardens the heart. Every time a person hears the call and ignores it, the voice seems quieter the next time, not because it is no longer spoken, but because the heart grows less willing to hear. Habits deepen, excuses multiply, and what once troubled the conscience becomes normal. That is why the call says, return now. Not tomorrow, not when life is easier, not when all questions are answered. Now, while the door is still open and the heart can still respond. Yet even with urgency, the tone of this call is gentle. It does not force, but invites. It respects the freedom of the heart, even while warning of the cost of refusing. The call to return is filled with patience, reminding that no matter how far one has gone, the way back is never blocked. Shame says, you have gone too far. Mercy says, come anyway. And it is mercy that speaks in this call. Repentance and return also bring restoration. What was broken can be mended. What was lost can be found. Peace that vanished can return. This does not mean all consequences disappear, but it means that even in facing them, one does not face them alone. There is strength given to walk through what must be faced, and hope that what seems ruined is not beyond repair. Return does not erase the past, but it redeems the future. This call is not only personal, it reaches families, communities, and even nations. It asks collective hearts to reflect, to acknowledge where pride replaced humility, where injustice was tolerated, where truth was traded for convenience. It calls for a turning back to values that bring life, to ways that honor what is right, and to a dependence on God rather than on human strength alone. Such a return can change the course of more than one life. It can reshape the destiny of many. In the end, the call to repentance and return is a gift. It means that the story is not over, that there is still time, that even now, after mistakes and failures, a new beginning is possible. It says that no heart is too hard, no path too crooked, no night too dark for the light of mercy to reach. And for those who answer, the return becomes not a moment of loss, but the start of true life, where forgiveness replaces guilt, peace replaces fear, and hope rises where despair once lived. This is the hour to act. The moment when waiting becomes more dangerous than moving, and silence becomes heavier than speaking. There are times in life when patience is wisdom, but there are also times when delay is disobedience. This is such a time. The sense of urgency does not come from panic, but from clarity. It comes from realizing that the window before us is open now, but it will not remain open forever. Moments of decision shape destiny, and this moment calls for a response. To act does not always mean to do something dramatic or visible. Often it begins in the hidden places of the heart, where choices are made that no one else can see. It means deciding to turn from what is wrong, to pursue what is right, to forgive where bitterness has taken root, and to seek truth where lies have been comfortable. Action starts when intention becomes commitment, when the heart moves from someday to today. This hour demands courage, because action always carries risk. It is safer to stay where things are familiar, even if they are broken, than to step into change. Fear whispers that it is too late, that the cost is too high, that failure is inevitable. But faith answers that obedience matters more than comfort, and that the greatest loss is not failing, but never trying. To act is to trust that God honors steps taken in faith, even when the path ahead is not fully visible. There is also urgency, because every moment shapes the heart. Choices repeated become habits, and habits shape character. What is postponed today may become harder tomorrow. Hearts grow either more sensitive or more hardened, depending on how they respond to truth. Acting now keeps the heart soft, open, and alive. Delaying allows resistance to settle in, making tomorrow's step heavier than today's. This hour is not only about personal change, but about influence. Every life touches other lives. When one person chooses to act in faith, it creates ripples that reach further than can be seen. A word spoken can lift someone from despair. A stand taken can give courage to others who were afraid to stand alone. A life turned back can become a signpost for many who are lost. Acting now is never just about oneself. It is about all who may be affected by that choice. To act in this hour also means to shine. When darkness grows, light becomes more visible. Even small acts of faith, kindness, and truth stand out against the shadows. The world does not need more noise. It needs more light. It needs people who live what they believe, who embody hope rather than just talk about it. Action gives substance to words. It turns belief into testimony. Yet this call to act is not a call to rush in human strength alone. It is not about striving, but about surrendering to guidance. Acting in this hour means listening first, aligning the heart, and then moving in obedience. It is trusting that God directs the steps of those who seek Him, even when the destination is not fully clear. Action rooted in faith is not reckless, it is responsive. There is also comfort in knowing that this hour, though urgent, is not faced alone. God does not call without also empowering. Strength comes with obedience. Peace comes with surrender. The moment one steps forward, help meets the step. The burden that seemed too heavy becomes lighter when it is carried with God. In the end, this hour to act is an invitation, not a threat. It says that now is the time when change is possible, when return is welcomed, when purpose can be embraced. It reminds the heart that tomorrow is not promised, but today is given. And what is done today can echo into eternity. To act now is to choose life, to choose light, and to trust that even a single step taken in faith can change everything.